All right, our next session, we are going to be covering air, sea, and land. We're actually going to open up for some questions as well. If our speakers keep it brief, then we have time for some audience questions. We're going to do 2 speeches back to back and then do some questions. So if you can think of questions, maybe write them down. Put your hand up when we open for questions, and we're going to have someone run a microphone for you. Our first speaker is actually local. His name is Petteri Kivimäki, and he is CTO for the Nordic Institute for Interoperability Solutions. His topic, which I'm sure he can explain a little bit further, is X-Road 8 Spaceship: converting public sector data ecosystem into a data space in a backwards compatible manner. Please welcome Petteri Kivimäki.
So, good morning everyone. My name is Petteri Kivimäki. I'm the CTO of Nordic Institute for Interoperability Solutions, NIS for short. NIS is a non-profit association which mission is to develop digital government solutions to its members. Currently, we have 2 products, X-Road and Harmony e-delivery access. They are both open source solutions for secure data exchange between organizations. But today I'm going to concentrate on X-Road. So what is X-Road? X-Road is an open source data exchange and ecosystem solution that provides secure data exchange between organizations. X-Road is licensed under the MIT open source license, and it's also a digital public good verified by the Digital Public Good Alliance. There are currently 25 known X-Road ecosystems around the world, and in the countries where X-Road is being used, there are over 540 million people living. And in the X-Road open source community, we have over 4,200 members from 160 different countries. So it's fair to say that today X-Road is truly a global solution. And also, when you look at the map, besides the NIS member countries in Europe, X-Road is being used widely in Latin America and also in Asia, and the use is expanding all the time. The typical way to implement X-Road is on a national level, and this is quite a big difference compared to many other data exchange ecosystems. So typically data exchange ecosystems, they are use case or policy domain specific. But with X-Road, the approach is a little bit different. So like I mentioned, a national implementation, and usually the national implementation covers multiple different sectors and different kinds of organizations. The organizations and domains that you see in this diagram, they are all taken from the Estonian X-Road ecosystem. So one data exchange ecosystem covers all these different domains, which of course means that the member organizations, they only need to have one technical access point, one piece of infrastructure to access multiple different kind of services, which is of course a huge benefit compared to a different kind of approach. Even if X-Road already today has many things in common with the data space concept, however, we are not considering it as a data space solution yet. And the reason for that is that today X-Road is based on its own custom protocol stack. And that custom protocol stack, it enables interoperability within one X-Road ecosystem, but also between 2 different X-Road ecosystems. So federation between 2 X-Road ecosystems. For example, today the Finnish and Estonian X-Road ecosystems are federated, and the Estonian and Finnish X-Road user organizations, they can exchange data as if they were members of the same ecosystem. However, because of X-Road is not based on a more widely used international standards. It sets a challenge when it comes to interoperability with other data exchange ecosystems that are based on other technologies. Today, X-Road is not interoperable with them. And since data exchange between different ecosystems is becoming more and more important all the time, this is a very big challenge for X-Road. And we, of course, we want to resolve it. And the way forward is to make X-Road compliant with the data space protocol stack, meaning that X-Road will become interoperable with data spaces, of course, assuming that the other data spaces are following the same protocol stack as well. So to simplify things a little bit, the data space protocol stack, it consists of 3 different layers, the trust plane, control plane, and data plane, and there are currently several ongoing standardization initiatives that are developing standards for the different layers. And those are the standards that X-Road is going to implement. And we are currently working on the next major version of X-Road, X-Road 8 Spaceship. And that's the version of X-Road that will transform it into a data space technology. So the aim is make X-Road compatible with the data space protocol stack and also technically interoperable with the Gaia-X trust framework. However, that doesn't mean that every X-Road user organization will automatically be a Gaia-X compliant participant. That's up to the user organizations. But instead, X-Road will provide the technical interoperability with Gaia-X, so the user organizations that see additional value of being a Gaia-X participant, they can use their existing X-Road components to join Gaia-X. No need to deploy additional infrastructure or components. Besides changes related to data spaces, we are also renewing the X-Road architecture. We are making it more compatible with cloud, more modular, and we are also implementing a concept called the light context. And the idea of the light context is to enable data consumers to consume data without having a data space connector on the consumer side. We have received feedback regarding this feature in the context of X-Road over the years, and according to our understanding, this is a very requested feature among the users. And I could assume that it applies also to other data spaces. So overall, the changes that we are implementing, they are huge. And since we already have at least 5 working ecosystems around the world, all the changes that we implement, they must be backwards compatible. And that's, of course, our biggest challenge in this operation. We started the transformation in the beginning of this year by implementing first a proof of concepts project. The aim of the proof of concept was to verify, is this approach feasible to implement in a backwards compatible manner. The outcome of the proof of concept was that yes, this should be doable. And after completing the first proof of concept, we have continued to work with the actual implementation. And the schedule for X-Road 8 is so that next year we are going to publish the first public beta version, and then after 2 years in 2026, the first production version. So approximately after 2 years at this time, we should have the X-Road 8 production version available. Someone might think that it is a short time, that it's a long time, but personally, I think that it's a very short time for completing such a challenging task. But of course, we are not going to implement all the bells and whistles for the very first X-Road 8 release, but we are going to implement the change iteratively, so adding something new in each new X-Road release. But in any case, the very first release, it will be fully functional and provide the features that X-Road provides today, plus it will be compatible with data spaces. So if you are interested in X-Road, if you are interested in implementing a data space using an open source technology that is widely used, that has a long history behind it, X-Road is a very good alternative. And also joining the X-Road 8 development right now, I'd say that the timing is almost perfect because we have already kicked off the work, things are going on, and now it's easier to join, and if you have your own requests and wishes regarding the development, it's still possible to get them included. So, if you want to have additional information regarding X-Road or NIS, don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Petter. If I could just ask you to hang out here on the couches while we have our next speaker, so then if we have some audience questions, you're right there next to a microphone, ready to answer. All right, our next speaker comes to us from Estonia. His name is Kuldar Aas. He is Data Governance Program Lead for the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications for Estonia. Please welcome.
Thank you. And I hope I'm getting it right. Huomenta. Good morning. I'm from the Estonian Government CIO office, and I'm thinking that we have talked about the future quite a long time already. So let's go back a bit, and I would first like to tell you the story about how we started with X-Road. So that happened already back in 2001, when Estonia was thinking about, as a post-Soviet country, that we need to do something great, we need to move fast, we need to kind of get to the same level of the rest of Europe. And there was the kind of known decision that one of the ways how we can do it is this new fancy thing called internet and networked communication and digitization. And the kind of first important wave of digitization was from the public sector point of view in terms of setting up a national digital identity for both organizations and individuals, and then precisely the kind of emergence and the deployment of X-Road as a government-wide national secure data exchange layer. So it went live in 2001, and over the past more than 2 decades, it started off as a public sector ecosystem. We were talking about first tens of agencies and systems being joined on that, then hundreds of institutions, and then we started slowly rolling out also to the private sector. So nowadays we are talking about more or less 2,000 different information systems that are connected to that directly, hundreds of users in terms of organizations, but also taking into account that many of these users or connected organizations are kind of in an aggregator point of view or aggregator situation, then by extension, the amount of indirectly connected organizations to X-Road is more than 50,000 by our calculations. And the kind of technical realization of all of that is more than 3,000 services that are live on a daily basis and which are really the backbone of public sector efficiency. Thanks to X-Road, we can enjoy things like filing our taxes in 5 minutes, going to any pharmacy in Estonia without a written prescription, the police being able to not demand your kind of plastic driver's license, but actually being able to control the validity of your health situation and your license on the fly over the internet. It obviously has also some downsides, so fax machine salesman as an occupation has basically died out in Estonia. And just to show you the extent of the data transfer that is happening, one is the numbers here, 270 plus million monthly requests going back and forth, and also the visualization you can see on the screen. It's actually an actual visualization of the main nodes and their interactions on X-Road. Now, Petri already told a bit about the vision in terms of going forward. Obviously, we still want to keep with the good part of having a national ecosystem and being able to exchange data in terms of kind of service provision from point A to point B, as we have been doing over the last 2 decades. But we also want to extend, and we are very, very closely looking at what is happening in the world of data spaces, and also to extend then our technical infrastructure in terms of allowing more or providing the support for additional business-driven scenarios and data exchange scenarios. So we are extensively talking about data rooms as a possibility, but also kind of wider support for not only one-to-one interactions between parties connected to the network, but also many-to-many connections. And yeah, as said, kind of that's one of the reasons why we really want to look into data spaces, and why we are also looking into Gaia-X, and why together with NIS we are very seriously looking into the possibility of using Gaia-X components for the next version of X-Road. While we are doing it, some of the key aspects that we are concentrating on. One that Petri already mentioned is backwards compatibility. As a technician myself, I'm in the position to say that in the end of the day, if you have some ecosystem or some platform like Gaia-X, in the end of the day, or the Gaia-X components, then it's straightforward to implement. You need some servers, some technical knowledge, you implement it, and you start rolling it out. But if you are in a kind of legacy situation like we are, then you need to think about these 3,000 plus services, 800 plus agencies, all of which have different schedules in terms of their development, priorities in terms of ease IT updates, IT compliance, going to a next version, even a priority notch, what is the funding available, which means that every hour for any individual service to be migrated from the current X-Road 7 to X-Road 8, which then might be Gaia-X, is going to be multiplied quite a lot. So the effort we are doing in the current POCs and the testing is really worthwhile, because it's really multiplied across all the users that we currently have on the network. The second aspect, which I could talk about very extensively, is security. But here, for now, as I'm almost out of time, I'm only concentrating on 2 aspects. One is really the layers of security. So we do know that there are some use cases which demand a very high level of cybersecurity, health, personal information, but there are also use cases, let's say, like in domains like open data and, let's say, open cultural heritage. Any kind of bit of effort we put into security and into setting high security requirements, in the end of the day, makes it harder for these kind of more simpler, less security demanding applications and systems to join the system. And that's something that we also need to look into quite carefully. And the third aspect, which is partially related to that, is then scalability versus functionality. On the Estonian X-Road, the heaviest used services get around 30 million hits monthly. So there are 1 million requests on a daily basis. And that's obviously just an average. There are higher peaks on top of that as well. And kind of this means that in Estonia, when we are discussing the further development of X-Roads and providing additional functionality, the first question is it scalable? can we do it 1 million times a day in a service? Can we do it 100 million times a day in the whole ecosystem? And finally, also addressing not the gorilla, but the elephant in the room. Petteri and Ville said that when I'm coming up here, I also must explain why there is no Gaia-X hub in Estonia. The answer is quite straightforward. Estonians are too pragmatic. And as long as NIS hasn't carried or finalized the POCs and said that yes, Gaia-X is the sustainable and most reasonable future for Estonian X-Road, then we are not going to take any really active steps towards that. But at the same time, looking at the results of POC, the 3 items you saw on the last slide are really kind of promisingly at this stage addressed by Gaia-X components. And in that sense, we are really hopeful that in the end of 2025, we can basically transform our already existing network of experts who know what is data exchange and are working on this on a daily basis into a Estonian Gaia-X hub, and also start contributing more actively to the international discussions on the further development of Gaia-X. But with that, thank you from me.
Thank you so much. Maybe you can take a seat with Petteri. Do we have any questions in the audience? We'll run a microphone to you. Just put up your hand. How is it? I mean, Estonia is so much more digitalized than any other country, and so much. You're smiling and laughing at my question already. But why is that? You said it's because Estonians are so pragmatic, but what do you think is the reason that you managed to digitalize so many of your services, your public side services already?
I'm a bit too young to be able to tell exactly what happened in the 1990s, but at least the story I've heard from my older colleagues is that it's beneficial to be poor.
Oh.
It's kind of part of the effort, or let's say the excellence in digital is accredited to the fact that the normal way of getting your independence and starting to build up your country is to establish a lot of state offices across the country, and spending a lot of effort in building houses and putting the new state out into the country. At the same time, when you don't have that much money to spend, the more effective way is to concentrate on digital and start building information systems. And that's, let's say, the most reasonably sounding explanation I've heard.
All right, because it
why the push there was in the 1990s.
Yeah, and then turns into being more fearless and being more forward and actually adapting new technologies.
Yeah, and kind of later talking to colleagues from, let's say, Germany, the Netherlands, etc., they are saying that actually, yes, that's one of the main problems we have. We have the resources to continue doing things the old way. We don't always have that much of a push to innovate, to do things differently.
Yeah. Great. Okay, I think Hubert has a question here in the front.
I have been trying to establish a hub in Estonia now for 4 years in a row, okay? So can you tell me what we can do to help that to happen? Is it the fact that X-Road is now going to be conformant with the Gaia-X? Is it a good first step to get there?
Yeah, and in one word, I would say it's an organizational legacy question. That's when you ask people who are the actual experts who could contribute to Gaia-X as well, what is their priority? They're stating bluntly, our priority is to work with X-Road, because that's the immediate thing we have in our office, the immediate thing we have next to our information systems. Our immediate priority is to work with X-Road. And we like international collaboration, but only if we have time left over from our internal operations. In that sense, the most straightforward solution is that yes, we can already collaborate. Even if we don't have an Estonian Gaia-X hub, then we have a good set of experts who have multiple decades of experience on data exchange and data collaboration and data ecosystems. and these kind of discussions on, for example, how to continue developing Gaia-X, how to continue with data spaces. So I'm myself participating in the SSC as well. From that point of view, that's possible already now. But Gaia-X Hub, pragmatically, is reasonable once we, together with NIS, have decided that yes, the next version of X-Road is Gaia-X.
But Kuda, X-Road is a technical part of it. But Estonia is 10 years ahead of the rest of Europe for automating governmental data space. Do you think you have a responsibility to disseminate that in the rest of Europe?
I see we are out of time. We can have a longer 2-hour discussion afterwards.
That sounds
but
good.
it's one of the main reasons, or one of the main statements about data spaces is that it's not only technology. Yes. The Estonian data exchange ecosystem currently, as you saw from Petri's presentation as well, that's domain agnostic, and it's currently mainly technology, and it doesn't intrude into what are the scenarios, what are the use cases. And that's what Estonia, I would say, is certainly not 10 years ahead. We are technologically potentially ahead, but the kind of overlaying data space governance aspects, the trust layers, from a governance perspective, not only technological, that's certainly something we need to learn from you as well.
All right, well, maybe you'll be here for the coffee break and we can have more questions. We're going to do one more quick question from the gentleman in the middle. No, wait. Oh, okay. From the lady here in the first row.
Who are the key players in Estonia way to Gaia-X? It's especially demand side. Is it company or government or NPO? Who are the key players?
It's both in the North. It's the government sector is very interested in continuing to improve government efficiency, also get to proactive service delivery, etc., which all demand data exchange. But also a growing demand from business digitization point of view and data economy point of view. So it's really hard to pinpoint any kind of direct players. Potentially the most relevant people are sitting next to you. So the 2 guys on your, left are actually the owners of X-Road in Estonia.
Thank you, ma'am. One more question from the gentleman in the middle, and then we go out to sea.
Yes, thank you. What is the business model of X-Road, and do you have any estimation of the economic value it has created over the past years?
Yeah, the numbers are too large to estimate. I don't know. Maybe you have it by heart, but the rough summaries are that there are tens of thousands of hours of public sector employee effort saved in a year, hundreds of millions of euros. That's kind of to have X-Road instead of postal service and not connected systems.
Yeah, we have some open data fact sheets that was also shown on one of Kulder's presentations. And since last month, we had over 275 million queries and messages exchanged over our X-Road layer. If each of those took around 15 minutes of person working time, then that estimate could add up to 2,000 years worth of time that was saved through e-services. So that's one of the data points that could be used in such an estimate, but the concrete number, unfortunately, not right now.
Wow. Okay, one more quick question, but then we're going to the next speaker.
It's not a question, it's a comment. We have a use case one of those thousands that was depicted. One use case paid for entire investment of the Estonian government into X-Road in 5 years. One use case, one data exchange between 2 organizations. It's very rare to get this very specific numbers, but because one of those organizations ditched their specifically rented equipment as a consequence of that service, then there's, for this one use case, there's this impact numbers, and it's staggering. It's just not even funny.
And just a comment here that please catch up with this guy in the back. That's Andres Kütt, the former government IT architect of Estonia.
Sir, can you stand up and not hide so that people can... Okay, so he can tell you the staggering numbers that are not even funny in his words. All right, let's give a big round of applause. Thank you so much to our speakers. As I said, now we are going to move out to sea. Our next topic is maritime data space as an enabler for virtual port arrivals. Here to speak to you about this is lead service designer and delivery lead from Siili Solutions. Please welcome Elisa Sarkkinen.
Okay, I like to move when I talk. Yeah, I'm Elisa. I'm from Siili Solutions. Maybe you know Siili already, maybe not, but it is an AI-powered digital development consultancy company. And we do end-to-end products. But now I'm not here to talk only about Siili, but it's also the mindset that we had when we created this proof of concept of data space as well as the virtual port arrival. Seldom, really seldom, we have moments where saving the planet is possible while gaining money. And this was a quote by our client, our partner, Fintraffic Vessel Traffic Services, Miikka Kälvimäki. He was supporting us during this project, which was a huge effort by a multidisciplinary team, very talented people. I was proud to lead this team at Siili, and this maritime project is really transforming maritime sector. And I'm here to talk on behalf of all the parties, all the partners, all the 30 organizations that were involved in this project that we were leading by Siili. Maritime sector is facing a huge transformation, climate change, digital needs, data harmonization, and all this leads us to a situation where we really need to minimize the CO2 emissions. So I'm here to tell you more about the needs behind the data space, where we talk a lot about technology, but we forget sometimes why do we need it. And in this proof of concept that we created, we really went deep into the reasons. So maritime sector, as it's facing this turbulence, it really, by the year 30, might risk in the situation where 70% of the fleet might go out of transportation if they don't meet the CII, which is Carbon Intensity Index needs. So really, they have to find out solutions because they are pressured to do it. And they want. And this ecosystem that we were leading, it is an example of a project that we really had people who want to change the world. This was a part of the Gaia-X data space initiative. And when we talk about the virtual port arrival, currently vessels rush to the port. Imagine a situation where you would drive all the way to Lapland with your car as fast as possible just because you have set a time limit there. And you would wait at the parking lot there, even the place where you're going wouldn't be possible. So it's the same at the sea. They rush to the port even if there is an identified delay, because otherwise they would breach the contracts. And this, of course, causes excess amount of fuel emissions. And that is the case here that we want to prevent. So when we talk about virtual port arrival, what it does is that it gives the line-up position. By using the data space service, it gives it the line-up position, connecting the vessel so that it can slow down and reach the port when the berth and the road and the cargo is available. Nobody loses time, but they can avoid even 45 days of waiting at the anchorage, which doesn't make any sense. And it's very cost efficient. And when we talk about the current situation here, this project had over 30 organizations, over 50 people that were combining. It was funded by EU, supported by Sitra, and we really were able to develop a solution that is connecting all these different parties, charters, shipping companies, ports, cargo owners. So scaling up by using data space components was possible. And what does it do? It is a way to avoid huge investments, just changing the operations. So when you think about technology, fuel type kind of development, that takes time. So these are the ways that we can really, by using digital solutions, support a new way of working at the logistical chain. And when we think about these kind of benefits that it creates, they are huge. We can save up, only in Finland, during 1 year, 45 million euros of fuel and emission trading costs, which is equal to 135 megatons of CO2 emissions. And that's a lot. That's 2,500 around the world with a petrol car. And that's only in Finland, taking all the ice-breaking season off. So what could it be when we scale it around? These are the things that what we can do when we talk about the data spaces. And when we think about how can it enable, what can it support? We talk a lot about contractual framework when we talk about data spaces, but you have to think about behind what are the contractual frameworks between the parties who are connecting or connected in the data space. The charter parties, those are contracts connecting shipping companies and charters. How are they, who is getting money? What is the value chain? What is the reason they would want to join this kind of data space? Who gets money? Who has these kind of different incentives? And why do they work the way they do currently? So we built a contractual framework business model that is connected to the data space POC as well. So this is a conceptual level data space with real data that we tested. And what this data space kind of can enable, that's the key. You can really connect multi-party processes, complex processes, which need this kind of tailorable view. So when you think about shipping industry, there's a lot of unpredictable elements, whether, when you think about identifying the delay at port, it is optimizing the already optimized. So unpredictable events and optimizing that. The multi-party processes, another thing is that when you think about the contract types, it's tailorable to those. You're also able to share the estimation. It supports the situational awareness of vessels, and it supports transparency. And when you have transparency, it supports trust. And trust is the key element in international business. And then operational efficiency, cost reduction. But the key in this solution is that all the parties who are connected to this get a split of the savings. So everybody wins. That's the key. When I mentioned that everybody gains money from this, it's also that when you save the planet, everybody gets a split saving and a share of those cost emissions and reductions in fuel costs. So that's kind of the business model behind this. And we have to go understand the value chain behind the connected parties and the connected data spots. When you think about the blueprint, which the vessel goes there, there's a lot of different kind of data that is connected. And this was nominated at the UN Climate Change Conference as a key initiative in the Green Shipping Challenge. So this has been really kind of leveraging the maritime transportation mindset, and we really want to also praise the different parties that were along this. There were 2 ports, Port of Oxelösund, Port of Luleå, Port of Uusikaupunki, ESL Shipping, another shipping company, SSAB Yara. So we had a lot of these kind of ecosystem companies joining us. And these are solutions. If you think about data spaces, it supports these kind of processes that no one can develop alone. You have to do it in collaboration. It is perfect for ecosystem, complex, wicked problem projects and initiatives. And here I want to thank also the Gaia-X people that I've been working closely with. Henna is coming here next after me. And we have been kind of trying to see what are the common elements between our projects. And I want to thank also everyone here listening to this, so thank you.
Thank you. I would also ask you to stay a little bit. Ooh, that was me. Sorry. So if you can just hang around. until after our next speech, where we again open up for some more questions. Now, you already teased us. Our next speaker is Henna Suomi. She's COO for IOXIO, going to be talking about Bisport ecosystem, data space for decarbonized global ports. Please welcome Henna.
Good morning, everybody, from my side as well. Really happy to be here, and actually really great to have the chance to speak after Elisa and continue about the same important topic. Should I get the... Oh, okay, yeah, now I got my slides going on there, thanks. So my name is Henna Suomi. I work as a COO and standardization lead at a company called IOXIO. And we're basically a data intermediary company working currently in the domains of global trade, logistics, as well as manufacturing supply chains. And so we're basically providing our services as a SaaS service to ecosystems that want to set up the data spaces by themselves. We're heavily looking into all the and following the Gaia-X development and using the components where seen feasible, but we're also looking into already global and open internet standards as a background for our services. And one of the cases I wanted to discuss today is the ecosystem or the work that we're working with the Bisport ecosystem. So why, and the data sharing case, we're working in the maritime ports, basically. And why are the maritime ports so important? It's basically 80 to 90% of all global goods being transported in the global trade. We are maritime shipping. So you can imagine, and the processes that are there, as discussed with Elisa, they're very disconnected. There are lots of paper in between still that's been used, and therefore there's a huge potential for data sharing to improve the efficiency, both from the economical but also from the sustainability side. Basically, what we're building with the ecosystem is basically the green corridor concept. So it means that the data moves with the cargo. So whenever the cargo owner, being it steel, heavy machines or wood goods, you can basically start connecting the data with the cargo and move it along the cargo path. So that's the concept that we're building here with the ecosystem. And this is basically a pilot project which includes all various stakeholders part in the port operations. So we have Kalmar, who is one of the leading cargo handling equipment manufacturers worldwide, providing their machines and services in more than 100 countries. Then we have the port company, port operators, and then also various port automating tool providers. And we're heavily looking into the use cases that the partners are looking into is basically exactly what Elisa was discussing: optimizing the port operation, increasing predictability. How can we know, for example, in the port, what kind of cargo is arriving there? What are their volumes? How should different parties actually be prepared to handle the cargo just in time and be able to adapt to the sudden changes? Also, the sustainability data doesn't really flow into ports. Electrification is also heavily touching ports, so not just the transition from moving from diesel-powered, fuel-powered machines towards electrified ones, that yields a lot of new need to share data and understand, for example, the sustainability metrics from the machines, and also simulate what does it mean in terms of the port operation to optimize the electric fleet better. What we are doing now currently is that we're actually piloting right now in the port of Oulu with all the companies. So they've been building their own connectivity to the database space services, and basically started to see and provide data basically not only from the fleet towards the port side, but the other way around, from the port operations towards the cargo handling machine providers, so that they can start optimizing their workflows and machine functions like the charging better. The use case that we are looking into, it includes the whole path from a timber sawmill towards the port side. So looking into the routes both from the land side and then from the sea side, and understanding like when the cargo is arriving, what kind of volumes are there, and how different parties can actually start benefiting of the sharing of the data. This shows the kind of the simplified view that we're now piloting live there up north, and next looking into how to scale the setup to other ports as well. We see that we have been basically, what we have been doing before we started the piloting, we have been identifying the key data that needs to flow in the process, and we see that it's basically the live operational data from the machines, as well as like the longer term performance data, as well as the sustainability metrics, which is highly relevant for different parties to actually start automating like sustainability reporting and those kind of function, which is also required from the Commission Green Deal regulations. Then, on the other hand, we're also connecting few third-party services to actually provide like environmental data towards the ports, and bring the view, for example, of the weather conditions, as well as like energy prices in terms of the knowing the costs of the electric fleet operation to bring like more knowledge to the port operators. We're of course at the same time looking, feeding the requirements from the EU regulation, knowing what this actually means from the data Act perspective for the different parties, as well as we're connected to the digital product passport developments that's now also ongoing and being brought by the Commission, as we're talking about electrification, like the battery passports, and sharing the data behind the battery passports is important to the partners that we're working with. That's briefly the case, but really happy to discuss more if in case you're interested in the same kind of topics and use cases that we're working on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Henna. We have time for a quick question. I mean, avoiding traffic jams at sea saves everyone money, saves everyone time, and saves the environment. So it seems like a no-brainer. What type of challenges have you? Like, who is making this hard?
It's the contracts that date hundreds of years back. When we think about maritime, you have to understand the kind of connection there, and what are the incentives and what's the real blockage. It's an industry that trusts in AI. When you think about data, it's something new at maritime. In Finland, we're quite in advance in things, but when you go to the sea, it's a different environment. There's no internet connections in most of the places. So when we develop things, we have to understand the real context, the real people who are working there. So we have really been doing, myself as a service designer, I always try to listen with the team, the real end users, who are the people who really are the ones that in the end live in the situation. So data space is an enabler for that kind of trust also. Yeah.
All right, interesting. Do we have questions in the audience? All right, yes, ma'am, we have a microphone coming your way.
Thank you very much for the introduction. And I have a question to Hannah. What about the timeline for the implementation?
Yeah, you mean the technologies that we're using behind?
Yeah.
As mentioned, we've been following the Gaia-X development for a long time and seen, especially on the shared ontologies and vocabulary side, where we see lots of value. But we're mostly using at the moment open internet standards, as they are basically globally available and actually very used standards already today. And we have seen kind of also the low barrier to start using and entering into data sharing, since that the basically stack that many of our customer service companies are or customer companies are using today. So both sides, looking Gaia-X, but also looking what already exists and is widely used today.
Okay, and do you have some integration with other systems, for example, the SAP, the ERP system, and how could you deal with such integration?
Sorry, it was quite a bit...
The question is, do you use the SAP or ERP, some other systems?
Yes, I mean, the partners who are connecting, they of course have their own systems, and it's basically the basic European data space principles that are there. So data stays where it is, you connect your system, and just relying on the productized data, you basically map your own system and build connectivity between. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. All right, thank you so much, ladies, for these really enlightening, interesting presentations. We are going to move on. Let's do a big round of applause for Henna and Elisa. Thank you. Our next speaker, now we're moving from sea to the fields and maybe a little bit to space. Our next speaker is Jaana Sinipuro, who is CEO for Data Space Europe Limited. She's going to be talking about the topic From Space to Fields, Agri-Food Data Across Borders. Let's give her a big round of applause.
Yeah. All right. Yes. Pleasure to be here. And actually, it's really nice also hearing from the practicalities on the use cases, and it's been a pleasure to hear about business cases today. So my background is I've been working with data and analytics since 1998 in a US-based software company called SAS Institute. Then I was working 6 years at Citra, building the foundation for European data strategy together with a marvelous team of 20 people, and now being a CEO in Europe's first registry data intermediation service provider, I think I'm really eating my own, taking my own dog food, and seeing how hard is it to build businesses on the data sharing. But I'm really positive for the future. And I think if we are very dedicated on that business that we are supposed to be in, there's plenty of opportunities ahead. So if we look at our company, the origins come from the state-owned company Cinia, which is actually the whole company, the software we are running on is a spin-off from Cinia's operations in 2016. During the Finnish EU presidency, I think the Commission even used our blueprints, our product as a comparison, as a benchmark for what the future data intermediaries and service providers should look like from a technical perspective. But then there was a change in strategies at Cinia, and there was a kind of pause in the product development. And then starting 2022, we kind of modernized the backbone solution to the Kafka architecture, and also started to work on the ecosystem governance level. So we connect data flows, data intermediation with very nuanced, very detailed consent sharing mechanisms. And yesterday when I was listening to Sebastian, of course I was really, that was touching to hear him speaking, and I think that he was really a brave person talking about difficulties, because we were actually planning a common implementation project together with AgData Hub Ilvo, implementing the European agri-food data space in the next 3 years with the support from the Commission. So I think there are many obstacles we still need to overcome, but as I started, I'm positive that this can be affordable business, this can be a good way forward. So we position ourselves as pioneers of data spaces in Europe. And our solution is called Triton, the actual data intermediation service. It's a very lightweight solution. And I think that the biggest benefits for businesses come from this secure data intermediation. We kind of augment and complement on the existing data management practices. If you want to exchange data with your business ecosystems, it needs to be cost efficient, it needs to be secure, and you need to productize on the data. And that's what we are focusing our efforts on. And then if we go to the ground, go to the fields and look at this Potato-X case. And by the way, we are a Gaia-X member, we are IDSA member, we are following the recommendations, reference architectures, rule books in our projects and our technical design. So far, because we have very limited resources, we haven't maybe been too active in the communities, but I really think that Gaia-X community, Gaia-X hub in Finland, is essential, and we need this kind of collaboration between different initiatives. So actually the case, Potato-X case, was supported by Citra, and it was only kind of proof of concept where we wanted to show that actually the biggest benefit for data sharing services, data exchange services, come when data crosses the borders. So how to create this seamless user experience for the end user of the services? How can we connect different consent management systems? How can we connect different technical environments into the one user, a good user experience? And, but at the same time, we wanted to experiment how to put rule books into practice, how to take rule book approach into the contractual measures, and how to connect data flows into these rules that we govern by the common rule book. So actually, the data coming from the Belgian manufacturer AVR machinery was exchanged or put into the Finnish farm management information system with the consent from the Finnish farmer who was using the machines. So key learnings from this exercise that was a matter of few months, I think we need to start from business modeling. It's really hard, maybe, because you need to identify the data flows, and then you need to identify the money flows. And of course, you can see these scattered comments here. It's takes a lot of time to discuss and agree on these things, but if we don't do this exercise early enough, I don't think that technology helps. So really, I think that after that discussion, finding the mutual benefits, finding finding where is the money with your data nodes, with your data streams, technology will follow. We have plenty of technology existing now in different initiatives. We just need to map these pieces together and create a kind of holistic view on what can be used for what purposes. So I guess our mission is to reduce ecosystem level data management complexity, and we are focused only on that. And we are also facilitating the rapid prototyping for the businesses. They can initiate the data sharing exercises without actually going under to the technical details or building the technical layer. But later on, this consent layer is easily connected with the technical layer. With the technical layer, our connectors are compliant with the Gaia-X recommendations and architectures. And rulebook, automating the rulebook, following data sharing with these common rules and standards, that's also very important in our approach. So I think that the biggest question is, can we achieve a platform benefits without actually being a platform? And I think that yes, there are many ways that we can benefit from data intermediaries, neutral data intermediaries that increase security in data management, data exchange, and allow the whole ecosystem to leverage its capabilities. So bringing these different resources together in a good, efficient, cost-efficient way. And then I would say that maybe we should identify different roles, different types of data intermediaries, and be very clear on the definitions. I see that our type of solution is best fit into the cross-border data sharing, maybe data sharing between the authorities, and also we have a long roots in agriculture, so the nuanced consent layer where we can give permits not only between or where the users, end users, also can give consent to personal data related data sets. It's one of the benefits. But then I think that we should be very clear on the role of the data intermediaries and choose where to invest in. So when Sebastian was talking about the death of Wally, we've also had our difficulties, and we are currently running on a shoestring budget. So in order to come over this valley of death, I think we need some public funding, and we need engagement from the public authorities. But the actual business should be always made on a commercial basis and thinking through about the business models. Because really the strategy is about choices and choosing which niche to work for. Although the scope of data spaces and these talks, they tend to cover the whole world, but being very focused on what you are doing, I think that will be our success factor for the next 5 years or so. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have questions in the audience for Jaana? Do you think Potato-X would scale? Like now it was just a sort of a smaller pilot?
Absolutely. That was our idea to continue on that work and maybe go from, like at the technical level, go more towards a world that Data Act allows, like IoT data intermediation, and then also to expand the scope and make the coverage across the countries.
Okay, good. Do we have questions in the audience for Jaana? I don't know if you're sticking around for the rest of the afternoon. Maybe if someone has a question, then maybe they can come and pull your arm. Okay, thank you so much for a really interesting presentation. And the funniest name also so far, I think, for Potato-X.